Hello and welcome everyone to today's Platinum Coaching webinar. My name is Todd Walters, Platinum Coach, and every month I do a webinar about something very specific and important to help you grow a better real estate business. Okay, now I'm going to encourage you to grab a notepad and grab a pen because some of the material that I'm sharing with you today will be some that you have seen before, and there will be much of it that you have not. Okay, but over the last 8 years of working with some of the top real estate agents on the planet, I've discovered much, learned much, seen much, and prior to that, my 15 years of association and coaching with Craig Proctor has revealed even more. So I've narrowed it down to really 10 strategies for better customer service. Now, I think we can all agree that when we do a really good job of servicing our clients, they stick around. And they become raving fans, and they tell stories about us, all good, which leads to more referrals and killer testimonials. So that's the ultimate leverage. And let's face it, all of us really want to do a good job for people that are paying us, our paying customers, right? Okay, so today's webinar is going to be all about that. I've narrowed it down to 10 strategies. So I'm going to encourage you to take really good notes, and this is going to spur some ideas for you. It's going to lead to what I consider to be a better real estate business if you can do it. So let me kind of frame this for you. I guess it was about 4 years ago now, as you watch this webinar when I'm recording it. If somebody's watching it on a replay sometime in the future, 4 or 5 years ago, that would have been 2007. Yep. So somewhere around 2007, our listing inventory started really climbing, going from around 100, 125 active listings, 200, 300, almost to 400 active listings within a very short period of time. Well, customer service began to be a real issue. Complaints were mounting, canceled listings, just simply because my customer service manager, goodness gracious, she couldn't handle the influx of issues in business, right? So much of the strategies you're going to see was a result of trying to fill all the gaps and the voids and to lead with better customer service. So problems really spurred much of the strategy that you're going to see in place here. Okay, so I think you're going to get gain some good insight here and be able to improve your current customer service as well. So let's take a look at it. Here are the 10 strategies. Each strategy is backed up with practical information that I'm going to share with you and try to discuss in depth. And it's probably going to take us about an hour to get through it all. Okay? So strategy number 1, client servicing calls, personal phone calls. And I got to tell you, nothing really replaces that. You can try all you want to, but man, somebody needs to be calling your clients and talking to them. We're going to talk about email updates directly from the outside sales agent or you. What you're doing to sell my house, okay, market updates, an item of value, okay, reviews every 30 days, home feedback websites, a letter personally from you, handwritten, heartfelt letter from you once a month, follow up using handwritten notes or emails after every meaningful conversation, and surveys, okay, so 10 strategies. So let's get right to it. The first one is this client service introduction call. I think it's great that if you've got your real estate sales team, as soon as you take the listing, within a couple of days for sure of getting that listing on the market, getting the paperwork turned in, somebody of importance needs to call your seller. And for me, if I took the listing, then my customer service manager or administrator or right-hand man or lady would call the seller up and say, hey, welcome to our team. We want to appreciate your business. My name is so-and-so, and here's what my job is. Okay? You can call me. You can communicate with me. If there are any issues, we're going to handle showings. In other words, it's just a good welcome call, and there's a script that that this person follows to make this happen. If you're a solo agent, then you make the call. Within a couple of days of listing the home, you call back, and right off the bat, you remind them of what's going to happen next, and you lay out the strategy and system for communicating. This is a big deal. Communications are the result of problems or positive gains. It's all about how you communicate with customers, right? All right. So you can see in the script right here on the screen, hey, do you have a moment for me to talk to you about our home feedback system? Okay, in other words, let's talk about how we can communicate with people looking at your property. And you can see this one uses or leverages homefeedback.com to do that. Okay, and this is very important. But a customer service call, a client service call, if you want to, it's an introductory call made to the seller right out of the chute. So mark that down within 48 hours of taking the listing. Somebody calls them, and let's look at why. There was a lot of stuff going on when the listing appointment was taking place, right? A lot of stuff going on. Seller's all pumped and motivated, but look, as soon as you leave or your outside sales agent leaves the house, the seller really forgets about everything that was said. Okay, now what's going to happen here? What's happening there? So you want to keep your sellers in the loop on how you conduct business, and you want to establish a best practices for that. That's the whole purpose of this. Because if you can cover them up with good customer service and follow-up while they're a client, they're not going to really want to go anywhere else, and they're not going to have a lot of questions along the way. So anticipate what the questions would be and address them before they come up, right? So an introductory call gets off on the right foot to do that, right? Now, every week after that, and I know this is a lot to ask, but every week after that, your seller really needs to get a call, okay? And it's a service call, because look, they come home every day, they drive into their driveway, as soon as they pull in, they see your sign. There's Todd's sign again. Oh, there's Todd's sign again. I'm tired of looking at Todd's for sale sign in my front yard now. It's been 2 months, and that's what goes on. So their whole world is revolving around this. So don't think that they're not thinking about you, their home sale, what's going on, how's it going. So, man, if you can set up a system where you can make a call every week, nothing replaces that. But I'm going to show you some backup systems that will help you along the way. Okay, so if you are making a call every week, what do you talk about? Well, obviously you're talking about feedback. Okay, now let's talk about feedback for a second. Feedback, as the definition, is from buyers who are not interested in buying the house. Okay? People who are interested in the property ask questions. So a good conversation to have with your seller to set the tone for who's looking and what's going on is to tell them just that. Look, we're going to get a couple of different prospects to look at your house. You're going to have prospects who have some interest, and you're going to have prospects who aren't interested. Feedback is going to come from people who aren't interested. Okay, in other words, they're telling us all the reasons they're not interested. But if any prospect asks a question, like, how long has this home been on the market? What does the seller do for a living? Why are they moving? We looked at the home and we noticed a problem with X. What's up with that? Any question at all separates that prospect into a different category and should be tagged as such, and those are the ones you communicate with quite frequently on price changes and other relevant changes in the listing. So you may want to have a conversation with your seller on how you distinguish between the two and how you go about getting feedback if you're using an automatic feedback system like homefeedback.com. And then every week a call is made, but what is the purpose of the calls? It really is almost like a checklist. And you can see there's a weekly listing diagnostic checklist that my customer service manager was responsible for communicating with the seller about every week, okay? And they would take detailed notes about the conversations and keep them into the computer so that I could look at them at any given time on what the communications were between customer service and the client, right? Now, another great strategy here is on these weekly calls is to give your customer service person or your outside sales agent a list of tips. Now, all of you watching this webinar should have access to a free report called 27 Tips to Selling Your Home Faster for Top Dollar. You can get that from the Marketing Library, Craig Proctor's Marketing Manual. Now, it's packed full of like 27 tips. That's like 27 weeks. I can pick a different tip out each week, but I don't want to hang up the phone if I'm the customer service person or the outside sales agent making the call or whoever and say, look, hey, before we hang up the call, I got a tip for you. And you basically just give them the tip. And that's it. So that's a great way to end the call. find a tip, something you haven't exposed before, and talk about it. So that is your typical, or we should say atypical, outside sales agent or customer service weekly phone call to your prospect. Now, as a side note here, if an issue comes up and you're forced to have to call your seller to discuss whatever the issue is, then you can count that towards your customer service touch that week if you were able to turn that call into a customer service call. But just because you talked to them doesn't mean you really did a good job of customer service there, okay, because there may have been things you didn't cover. So take the opportunity to do that. Find out how to leverage your time a little bit better, and that'll be a great deal. So you can see the checklist there. That's pretty good, and that makes up a great phone call. All right, now, on my team, made up of 30 to 40 outside sales agents running around, taking listings, selling houses. They just didn't do a really good job of making these calls, okay? So we developed an email system where the agent would just email the seller, and they could blast these emails out at will, but it was totally optional for the agent, and the ones who used them, they did a really good job. Okay, and it become so good that we said, you know what, we're going to make this part of the way we do business. So this was a game changer. Every seller was getting a personal email every week from their agent, which turned into a communication forum. Okay, it's fantastic. Now, it didn't replace the personal phone calls, but it did lead to better customer service. I'm going to share with you these emails, what they look like, what the templates were. Now, form letters are a no-no. You do not communicate with clients in a form letter, but you can have an outline or a template that you leverage off of to send a pretty good note to your customers. And that's just what it is. It's just a note to follow up. All right. But again, I want to reiterate, nothing replaces the personal phone calls. All right. So let's take a look at them, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 16 of them there. And they correspond from week 1, week 2, all the way through week 16. What happens at the end of 16 weeks? If you still got that listing for sale, that's 4 months basically. You got a real problem, like the home's overpriced or you got some other issues there. And we're going to get into that a little bit today on how we can change the outcome. Okay, but there's 16 of them, and they correspond by the week. For example, week 1, welcome next steps email. Week 2, thanks, week 1 review. Week 3, feedback. Week 4, some sales tips. So let's take a look at these emails, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, all these emails were, here's how it worked. When an outside sales agent joined our real estate sales team, we gave them all 16 of these emails, and they were labeled as such. Week 1, week 2, week 3, 4. Agent office told the listing agent to send the email. It was just automatically factored into the activity plan. Okay, it was an activity automatically scheduled to the agent, and our really good agents who were very interested in staying in touch with their agents, with their sellers, they did a really good job of saying. So, for example, let's go to week 2. Let me just go backwards here. Okay, so week 1's gone by. So week 2 pops up. There's a scheduled activity to the outside sales agent that says, send thanks week 1 review email. That's the scheduled activity. So the agent would just simply send the email from their Outlook or whatever they were using. It was that simple. They got the seller's email address. They just forward the email. So again, when we hired them, we sent them all 16 of these emails. They put them into a folder in their Outlook, and they would just open up their Outlook, open up the folder, click on that email, forward it to the particular seller. Okay. Now, what was interesting about this is that the really good agents would modify these emails every now and then to fit with a conversation that they may have just had with their seller just a day or two before. Okay, so you can see here's the first one, welcome next steps email. And look, I don't know how you write emails, but when I write an email to somebody, it doesn't say Dear Todd. right? If I'm sending you an email as a member, I don't send you an email saying, hey, dear, so-and-so, right? And I wouldn't recommend that you do that. So how do you communicate with your friends, your family, or people through email? You really want the emails to look like that. So you can ditch the Dear Todd, right? I don't want it to be a form letter, okay? And you want to rewrite these emails if you guys are looking at them right now. You want to write them in such a way that it's your words and it doesn't sound like a form letter, okay, like this. Thank you again for selecting me and our team to handle the sale of your home, right? Mine may say, hey, John, just wanted to thank you again for your business and reiterate, my commitment to giving you the best service possible. Okay, so this email is my official written thank you. And I want to give you a heads up on a couple other things or remind you of a couple other things just so we get started on the right foot here. Okay, so that's the way I would write my emails, just like I was talking, right? Whereas this was written as a form letter. So they have to be modified to be really effective. Do not send form letters. Okay, so that's welcome next steps email. This is the week 1 review. I want to take a minute, thank you again, and thank you, if you'll notice in all these emails, is in it. Like I thank them in every email that they get each week. Very important, okay? Your satisfaction builds our business, right? And as Todd Walters tells us regularly, your success is essential to our success, okay? Here's a review of week 1. We did this, we did that, we did this, we did that, we did this, okay? Are your properties on the market? We want you to remember all these things, blah, 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 okay? Now, you can see that we've got we in here, and we did this, and look, I might be a very powerful word here because that indicates that you're actually working and that sort of thing. So remember the difference between we and I, when you're writing these emails. Okay, so I like that, especially when it says, hey, look, your home was introduced at our company sales meeting. So we're going to continue to work aggressively with all area real estate agents to encourage their cooperation in the successful sale of your home. So here you may mention your citywide buyer agents network was notified within 72 hours of your home going up for sale. All right. So that's pretty good. Let's look at week 3. Feedback email. Hey, Jim, I know you're busy, so I hope you don't mind, me zipping you a quick note here, but I wanted to talk to you quickly about feedback. Now, as we talked about before, feedback is really from people who are not going to be buying the home. People who are interested in the home ask questions. So we separate the two, but we still want you to know about feedback if you're interested. Okay, so you can get feedback or you can ask questions about feedback, but I just want to remind you about that, and the difference between feedback and people who ask questions. So we're looking for people to ask questions. Any question represents an interested prospect at some level. All right, so that's how that email works, right? Let's look at week 4. Some sales tips. I thought I'd shoot you a quick note to go over some important items which I think strongly impact the sale of your home. Now, as a side note, if you're going to do this, you got an email system that you're going to use or direct mail. I'd recommend email. Have that communication with your seller up front. Say, is it okay if I stay in touch with you every week via email? Like we're going to talk on the telephone whenever there's an issue, and discuss feedback and prospects and opportunities for a sale, but can I send you some notes every week via email on things that pop into my head or ideas, strategies, information that I think will be helpful? Okay, great. And that's it. So then when they get your emails every week, they know exactly what's going on and what you're doing. So you could ask that question. Okay, some people, strategists may tell you like, hey, don't say it. So when they get it, it's like you're over delivering. I don't think so because you're going to be doing it every week. Good communications, you just can't do that, and the fact that you're even doing it is probably over delivering anyway, right? All right, so obviously you're set up, in some of these, but I make it a habit of passing along these tips to each seller that I meet with, and here's some pretty good tips right here, and you can see those. So I like that. It's pretty good. All right, let's look at number 5. Hey, Todd, I wanted to leave the office. I did not want to leave the office today without touching base with you about your home. Been a good week for home sales here. A couple offers a day coming in, but obviously you didn't get an offer. Okay, so I wanted to let you know kind of what to expect. For every 8 showings, we're getting an offer. Now, what am I doing here? Well, here we are, a month or so into this deal. He doesn't have an offer on his house. If he's had more than 8 showings, he's going to start to get concerned. He's not getting any showings, he's going to get concerned. Okay? But there's an average tipping point in your business where for every so many showings that you get on a property, you typically get an offer. Okay? And if it gets to be more than that, holy crap, you got no offers. You got a pricing problem, right? All right, so that's a really good email. Let's go to number 6. Discussing a sale. Okay, here's a quote from Zig Ziglar. Wake up every day with these words in mind. I might be a little bit overzealous there, but it's true for me. That's one of the reasons I'm sending you this note. Look, if you don't like the way things are going, I just want to remind you that you can call me anytime. Here's my direct number. Okay, I'm here to help you. Your home sales are priority. We appreciate your business. Okay, so you can see we squeezed in, a nice little email like that. It's good number 7. Look, I want to let you know we've completed another mailing out to our prospects who've said they're searching for a home like yours. I just want to give you a heads up on some marketing stuff we were doing. I'm going to continue to follow these things along and see your home through. Okay, let's look at number 8. Now, remember that now we're probably, about 60 days into this thing, a couple of months. Okay, so I'm going to test the waters with an email here on a price reduction. And a great way to do that is to let your clients know that you have a database of real estate investors. And these real estate investors are buying property anywhere from 50, 60, 70% of market value all the way up to 95% of market value. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know we had one. We haven't really talked about it, but look, if you would consider an offer in that range of value, please let me know right away. Okay, so that's a pretty nice note to send, right? And you can see that's exactly what this is. And you would be amazed at 2 months in, sellers who had told me, no, I'm not lowering my price, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing this. They get this note and they would call. And they would say, hey, Todd, yeah, I got your note today about your real estate investors. I'd consider, 95% of what I'm asking right now. Okay, so you're asking 200, that's 190,000, yeah. Well, if you would consider selling it to an investor for that, we're probably even more likely to sell it to someone who wants to live in the home for that price. And we have a lot more of those type of prospects out there. Would it be okay if I tell them that? If I can tell the world that you'll sell it for 190? And you have that conversation, typically leads to a price reduction. It's a very good strategy. All right, let's look at number 9, week number 9. Now, again, I want to reiterate, these weekly emails, or 16 of them, not designed to take the place of the personal phone calls. This is in conjunction to it. And they're strategic emails to spur interaction and communication with my home seller. I want them calling me instead of me having to call them all the time, right? And you can do that with a good strategy like this. So let's look at these 3 factors here. Hey, hope all is well. There's 3 factors that influence the outcome of your home: price, condition, exposure. It appears that we've got all the marketing covered and everything, but exposure is a big deal. So, right, and it's just a nice friendly note that communicates information to them on what influences the sale. Thought you'd like to know, that kind of stuff. Right, I like that. I did read a report today that Metro Atlanta now has almost 100,000 homes for sale in any given month. Less than 10,000 sales in any given month. Not very good ratios, but hey, that's the marketplace that we're in right now, right? If you want to talk, just give me a shout, let me know, right? Otherwise, I'm continuing to work on it. Right, so that's a pretty quick little note. And if my seller's on the cusp of an issue or wanting to talk to me, and I've invited them to do that, I've given them relevant information, it's good. Now, again, if I'm not making any calls to the seller over these 9-10 weeks that we're into now, yeah, you can expect some problems. Don't communicate solely via email. You got to pick up the phone and call, but this will definitely help you. All right, let's look at a few more. Quick update email. Here I'm again with an update. We're staying busy, calling clients. We're doing this. We're doing that. Okay. So far, nobody's been interested in your home at the asking price. Okay, so you can see I'm getting a little bit bolder here. Now, it doesn't matter if I changed the price 2 weeks ago or haven't changed the price at all. But it does matter if I just talked to the seller yesterday on the telephone. So let me repeat. If I just talked to the seller yesterday on the telephone and an agent office tells me to send this email, I don't want to send this email if we just had this conversation, but I might change the email to say, hey, just to reiterate the conversation that we had yesterday about a possible price change, we'll continue to monitor what buyers are buying, that look at your home and let you know about that. In the meantime, you may want to consider this number here that we talked about. So you change the email a little bit as a follow-up to the conversation that you just had. All right, so let's look at, I think we're at number 11, best home value email. So the question to always be asking yourself is, am I the best home for the money? This came up at our sales meeting, and I found it helped to eliminate guesswork. In other words, I want sellers asking them that question, is my home the best home for the money or not? Okay, so, and look, you can see, we need to be the best home value out of 15 or so homes a buyer's looking at in order to expect an offer, because I've already provided the seller with averages. 15 homes for sale for every one buyer. Okay, that means you better be a very good value. Okay, my job is to let you know whether you are or not as we market for buyers. Okay, so I like that strategy. Let's look at another one. People sell homes email. So this is a rather lengthy story, but you can see this is a copy. Mr. Smith, hey, this is Todd. It's a copy of a letter I got from, so the team leader in this case thought it was worth you seeing too. It's a rather lengthy but important letter that would give you some insight into why we do and say what we say on the radio talking house and our talking ads. And I'm a big proponent of radio talking house, and as you guys know, because I like to be able to highlight certain aspects about what we do and how we do it at the curb. We're making an offer, a guaranteed sale program, or whatever it is. So we just kind of reiterate or remind the seller 12 weeks down the road now of why we're doing things the way that we're doing them and how they benefit from that. Okay, so this is a really good email. All right, and you can see it's a story that has been copied and pasted in there. So very nice. All right, so here we are now 90 days out. Okay, and the seller's getting emails from me every week. We're talking on the phone off and on, and there are other things going on that we're going to look at here momentarily. But 90 days out, the home hasn't sold. What are you going to do? Well, what we would do is we would basically look at the seller and say, look, we've got this trade program, this guaranteed sale program that you're very familiar with. Look, just go pick out a house that you're interested in buying, and we'll see if we can buy your home as a result of you buying out. Okay, so let's talk about that, a trade. So spark some interest, they pick up the phone and call. In other words, we try to see if we can get as innovative as possible on the home that they're buying, getting paid enough money like it was one of our listings to be able to step in and guarantee to sell theirs, or at the very least just tell them, say, look, we could buy your home for this price if it doesn't sell, and come to some sort of understanding on value. So more typically than not, this email 90 days into the listing would lead to discussion about a price change as well as a move. I've had the home on the market for 90 days. You got to be kidding me. Now, if I talked to the seller just a few days ago and lowered the price, then I may change the content of this email a little bit. But it gave my agents really good leverage in communicating via email to their homeowners if they followed the system. So problems with this deal, agent office tells the agent today to send possible trade email. They haven't talked to the seller in a couple of weeks, and they don't do the activity that week. So a week goes by, and they just don't send the email out or modify it or take the time to do it. A week goes by, now it's really kind of out of date, and you're up against another activity on the back of it. So you can see where the problems may lie in a strategy like this. It's only as good is actually doing it. Now, this is a little bit out of place, and I'm going to tell you why it's strategically placed here, going on to the 13th week of having this home on the market. But you can see I'm asking them for referrals. I would have sellers call me up and say, dude, you're asking for a referral, and you've had my home on the market for like 3.5 months now. So look, I got no problem giving referrals, but I got to get my house sold. And that's precisely what I want to have happen. Because when a seller calls me, they become more motivated than what maybe I thought they were before. So it leads to a conversation, a lower price, and a sell. So I like that. So we squeeze this in strategic. And yes, we would even get referrals from people. You're not going to get them if you don't ask, right? So let's look at week 15, 14 or 15. Home sales report. Right? So let's just kind of read this one because this is very, very good and strategically placed as well. Hope you don't mind me contacting you by email today. But if you're like me, phone tag's no fun. Just a quick note to let you know I've been looking over some lockbox reports as well as some recent home sale data. Some interesting stuff. We're getting more showings than ever on our listings, but home sales, according to the multiple listing service, they're down. So we're obviously doing something right. So in other words, if I'm not telling our successful story, probably nobody else is telling it to them. So we always do a job in such a way as to let our clients know that we're successful. Like if we're selling other people's homes, but we're not selling yours, there's a problem with your house, and we need to talk about that. And this typically comes down to price, right? Now, we rely on communications. That's why I send you notes, and that's why I call. So if you got something you want to talk about with me, you better give me a buzz back. And so these notes are very coming in handy. All right, so 16 emails, and you can see they're all strategically done. But look, if you got homes on the market for 4 months there, you got some pricing issues that you need to try to overcome earlier in the process. So we looked at strategy number 1, which was your customer service calls right at a shoot and weekly. Strategy number 2, which was a weekly email update system corresponding with that specific time frame of selling a house. And if you've had conversations with your sellers on the phone, modifying those emails. So let's look at strategy number 3. And that is efforts to sell. Have you ever had this question? Hey, Todd, what are you doing to sell my house? Yeah, I've had that one a lot. So the purpose here is to let the seller see firsthand what you're doing to sell their home. So I want you to picture this in your mind as like a report or spreadsheet, or better yet, a billing style format. So we got a couple of platinum members that send their homeowners, their sellers, a bill. Yeah, it's like you would get from an attorney. Have you ever done business? If you've ever had an attorney work for you, you'll see they send you a bill, and it's a running list of the things they did, how many hours they spent on it, and the charge. Okay, now you could do that, but I don't think you're going to be able to bill your customers for it. But maybe you can establish a value. So if you spent 3 hours working on their house this week and you get paid $300 an hour, if that's your rate, that's $900, okay? But they owe you $0. So this is pretty slick. I'm telling you, it's really good. So how often would you send this? You have to use your own judgment on it, but man, once a month for sure. Okay? So that's really over-the-top customer service. But boy, I'm telling you, it establishes value. Okay, so if I talk to 4 agents about this house, and one buyer showed the house twice, how many hours did I spend working on this home? What's my time worth? What's the charge to the seller? $0. All right. So I like that one. Let's look at number 4, market updates. Now, when we talk about market updates, I read newspapers, I read magazines, and I'm looking for real estate information that is interesting, especially when it comes to what's going on in the marketplace. So I would cut out an article, photocopy at times 150 or 200, 300 listings, however many we had, write a quick handwritten note, or my customer service manager would write the handwritten note, photocopy all those, stick them in an envelope, and we'd mail them. So every month, every 3 weeks, my customer service manager would send the seller an article like that, basically on my behalf or from me. And that was great. Thought you might be interested in this information. Okay. And then we may pull out a home selling tip that relates to the market issue, okay, and how they might combat it. Okay, it was really nice and great. And remember, these people are focused, dialed into getting their home sold or information about what's going on in the marketplace. Not lengthy, but shortened. It was great. So that's a great strategy. I like that. All right. Number 5 on our list of 10 of all-time great strategies for better customer service is obviously making the prospect feel guilty. Like you can guilt them into sticking around. So I got lots of examples here, but most of them would be from restaurants and area companies that I do business with, and basically hitting the owner up of that company for coupons, or there was a car wash in town, a dry cleaners. We had some relationships with Chick-fil-A at one time, but they would give us stuff, and we would just send them out to our sellers. Hey, thank you for your business. Thought the kids might want to have an ice cream at Brewster's down the road there, and here's a buy one get one free coupon. And we would get, and I just tell the company owner, yeah, I need 200, I need 300, okay. And if you don't trust me giving me that many, then you know what? I'll give you the envelopes and you can stuff them and send them out. And then most of them will say, no. We'll give them to you, and that's fine. Okay. And that worked out really well. And we would even, there was one company where we even had a special coupon code where we track, our responses. But so an item of value for your seller client delivered once a month. So what happens for the guy that sells in 2 weeks? Well, typically your sellers are around for, on average, for what, 2 to 3 months in a pretty stable marketplace. So it's not like they're getting a lot of these things. But over the course of a couple of months, with the emails, the report, item of value, I mean, come on, that's really good customer service, wouldn't you say? It's just the way that you do things. So you've got a busy beaver in your marketplace taking care of your clients. Great strategy. Number 6, personal review. This is a rainmaking activity here, okay? A CMA done when you listed the property, it just may not be accurate anymore. There's been foreclosures or new listings coming on, or who knows what's been going on in your marketplace over the last month. But every 30 days, I would do a new CMA and deliver that information to the seller, maybe even a sit down. All right, my favorite one was how many buyers looked at your home and what homes did those buyers go and buy. So about once a month, we would, say there were 6 buyers that looked at my listing, find out what 6 homes those buyers bought, if any, find out that, say out of 6 buyers looking at the property, 3 of them went out and bought another home. Here are the properties that they bought, Mr. Homeowner, and you compare them. Cheaper, 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 more this, more that, more this. That translates into money for your home on a comparison basis based on my expert evaluation of X. So just to give you an idea, is there any way we could offer your home to the future buyers at X? So in other words, a sense of loss has come over them, and if you can leverage that information properly. And look, my guess is if they're getting motivated here, or are motivated, they're not going to want to lose on the next one, right? All right. So that's a great strategy. Let's look at number 7. Home feedback websites. This was a real game changer for me in many different ways. We used homefeedback.com and kind of worked like this. Let me see if I can give you the dialogue properly here. Okay, Mr. Seller, are you interested in feedback? Why, yes, I am, Todd. Okay, great. Here's how it works. When you come home from working or playing or whatever, and there's a business card on your dining room table there from an agent that popped in and showed your property, here's what we need to do. Instead of picking up the phone and calling me and leaving a message and all that kind of stuff, we'll just use the internet. So just go to our home feedback website. It's called homefeedback.com. You're going to have your own username, password. You just log in and you just type in the agent's contact info from the card, and that's all you need to do. Okay, and our system will go to work and it'll take care of everything else. Is that okay? Yep, and when we get responses, it's going to be emailed to you. So it's a great way to keep up with and manage all the agents, buyers, and everybody that's coming through the property and what they're looking for. All right, so yeah, I like it. So anyway, now some clarification here in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. If a buyer's agent wants to show a property, they just pick up the phone, call the seller directly, because the seller's phone number is in the MLS. And they say, hey, I want to show your house tomorrow at 3. Is that okay? And the seller's like, yeah, sure. That's typically, on average, how it works around these parts of the world where I'm at. I know that sounds pretty interesting for many of you, but hey, that's the way it's been done. So we didn't want to change that. I had no problem with agents calling sellers as a courtesy call to show the property. That's one less thing I had to do. And we never really had any issues with agents trying to steal business, which I was amazed by, because obviously we would take advantage of that system. Okay, so if it's a vacant property, you got some other issues right there. You're going to have to manually probably pull reports from the lot box and add those people to your homefeedback.com website. Great leverage there. Oh, as a side note, if you use a feedback website and you're looking for really good real estate agents to come and join your sales team, then you should put your ad for sales agents in your feedback website. Right, you can put your logo in there, you can put your picture in there, you can put your contact info in there. So use that space to also put your ad for outside sales agents. Okay, so every 30 days, I wrote a letter to all my homeowners. It was typically the same letter going out to all 100, 200, 300 of them, depending on the day. And this is a pretty good sample right here. Okay, and obviously it didn't say dear seller, probably didn't say dear anything, but it might say Tom and Susie, you know, and then you get right into the letter. And this is a big deal, and it was typically typed out, printed in an envelope, and sent, wasn't emailed. Okay, now as I got further and further away from actually going on the appointments, okay, then I would communicate with all the sellers as like the president of my company to let them know that I was serious about talking to them if they had the need. And I would include my contact information and tell them that you're welcome to call me because we're a team here and we're in this for the same reason. That's to sell your house. So every month, every letter was a little bit different, okay, but it had the same offer in it. Right? And you can see that we would always include something that they hadn't received before. In this case, some market information. Every 30 days, personal letter. So that's a great strategy. I'm sure some of you are doing that right now. One of my all-time favorites here is going to be strategy number 9. So you're on the phone with one of your sellers. You're talking to them and you're having a good conversation or a bad conversation. Doesn't matter. Then you hang up the phone. What do you do next? Well, what we would do is we would turn right around and email the seller what we just talked about. Hey, John, hey, this is Todd, and it was nice talking to you just a couple minutes ago. Here's to recap what we discussed. Here's what we're going to do next. Here's what we're doing now. Just wanted to recap, okay? If I missed anything or you need something else, you give me a shout back. Here's my number. Thank you. And I would just copy and paste that information into the notes on the listing card in Agent Office. Fantastic. So yeah, if you talk to the seller 3 times a week, and you're in the office, you're sending an email as a recap of the conversation. Number one, that's really good customer service. And second thing is that you've always got notes in Agent Office. So I'm sitting there one day in the office and I'm watching an agent or a customer service person, I forget who now, but they're typing some notes into the Agent Office system. Oh, it was my customer service manager, I remember. And I said, Linda, what are you doing? And she says, well, I'm just updating the system here. And I'm like, yeah, I see that, but that's really good information that you're typing in there. Why don't you just copy and paste that into an email after every conversation with the seller to make sure you got it right, just so that, just to go the extra mile. Let's test that and see what happens. And then it was so little time because she was typing the notes in anyway, and this extra 30 seconds of sending the seller a note with the same info, it went a long way. Okay, many of you have heard the strategy of handwritten notes. That's really a great thing. If you can do that, that's huge. But that was just something I just never could really get to in my own mind. It's not that I didn't have time for it. It's just something I just didn't do. But I know some business people that do that. There's a guy here in town that I respect a lot. He had one of the largest mortgage companies in the Southeast at one time for the meltdown, and he did a great job of handwritten notes. And boy, they were impactful. He had like a little card that you open up and he'd write in. He'd send those out like crazy after just about anything, conversation or contact you'd have with somebody. That's a great strategy. Let's look at number 10. Customer service surveys. Okay, how many of you like to play basketball? And I'm going to use basketball because it's a real simple little sport to go out in your driveway, grab your ball, shoot some hoop. It's something you can do on your own. So you go out there and you shoot some baskets for a little bit, and then you go back in and you're kind of done. But a buddy comes over, and you guys are going to goof off in the driveway, so you go out there and you're shooting some basketball together. Okay, and then your buddy says, hey, why don't we play a game of horse? Okay, well, all of a sudden, you get a little more serious. Okay, if he says, hey, let's play a little one-on-one, you get really serious. The bottom line is everybody plays differently when you keep score. We have people in our program, I'm trying to think of some pretty good examples. Of the one that comes to mind right off the bat is Willie Miranda, one of Craig Proctor's coaches. And Willie's been voted one of the top places to work in his marketplace. So keeping score, keeping tabs leads to better results. Everybody plays differently when you keep score. So customer service surveys done on a very periodic basis, and I'm going to say at least quarterly, to current customers, past clients, it will change how you do things. So you want to track your results, measure the number of cancellations and results against the industry standard, sales price to list price ratios and others. See how you're doing. Okay, and your goal is to be better and do a better job than your competition out there. And the only way you're going to really know how well you're doing is how you're keeping score. Don't just measure things by your bank account. Okay, so if we lead with the results in mind here, and you hold everybody on your team, hold each other accountable to the results. Okay, then you're going to see a much better real estate business. But you got to know what the results are that you're looking for, right? Okay. So one more thing I wanted to throw in here, and that's some price reduction information. At the end of the day, if the properties aren't selling, you're doing a great job of customer service. Let's just face it, you're not really getting paid for the performance of servicing your clients. Okay? The home's got to sell. So you want to be evaluating your properties every 3 or 4 weeks to see if they're getting moved. Don't be going more than a month here and looking at why this home is not selling. You've got to do that. Okay? So some of my favorite scripts, Mr. Seller, you got a $200,000 home. If we got an offer today for $190,000 as is, would you take it? Okay, that's a pretty simple comment. Here's another one. If I was to come over to your house today, check it out, fall in love with it, grabbed a briefcase out of my car, opened it up, it's got a whole bunch of cash in it for $190,000, would you take it? Same offer made a different way. Here's another one. If you're the best home for the is your home the best home for the money? All the homes that are on the market today. And if the honest answer is I don't know or I'm not sure, then you know what, we may have a problem. Like, we have to be the best home value out of all the ones the seller's looking at. I mean, the buyer's looking at. Okay, look, it's not an exact science, but we've got some really good data and information that we can rely on and make good decisions from. And I've been doing this for 20 years, so yeah, I've got a pretty good idea of reading and interpreting the data and giving you good advice. Okay, and you get right into the pricing. Let's look at another one. According to the homes currently listed for sale, your home seems to be right in there. That's kind of a problem, like blending in versus standing out. Can you see where that does not help us lead to an offer for sure? That leads to conversations like, well, if the right buyer comes along and all these things, well, look, you've had 6 buyers come to your house. Who's to say they're not the right buyer? They went out and bought something else. Okay, so we need to take a look at this. Like, maybe we can look at a scientific approach. The average sales price to list price ratio is 97.1%, so that's like almost 3 percentage points. So if we want to make a scientific change on pricing, we probably need to move by at least 3%. Okay, and on and on. So you guys can see the scripts right there, but I want to remind you, that you've got access to these on the coaching site. And this is stuff you need to have by your telephone. This is a rainmaker activity, changing the price on property. But you can change it in such a way that it has a real impact, and you're more likely to get the right pricing changes if you're doing a great job of customer service. If your sellers don't trust you, if they don't like the service you're providing them, they're not going to be interested in really lowering the price with you, right? Okay, so let's just kind of recap real quickly here what we looked at, what we talked about over the last hour on customer service. So let me pull that screen back up for you. Here it is. Client service calls, there's nothing better. Agent email updates, efforts to sell the home. What are you doing to sell my house? Kind of like a billing type summary. Market updates sent to the seller every couple of weeks along with a home selling tip. And of course, that's an article as it relates to the marketplace, what that is. Number 5, an item of value delivered to the seller once a month. Like, hey, take the kids down to Brewster's ice cream on me. 30-day review by you every 30 days. Get those homes sold. There's reasons it's sitting there not selling, and have that communication with your seller. Utilizing a really good feedback website, good leverage. A personal letter every month, all your homeowners, especially if you're the team leader and you're never seeing these sellers. That's a big deal. So that's where that comes from. Number 9, handwritten notes or emails to every seller after meaningful conversations. Hang up the phone, send them a quick note. Hang up the phone with them, send them a quick note. Ran into them in the grocery store, go back to your office, send them a quick note. All right. And number 10, survey. Everybody plays differently when you keep score. So with that, that gives you the 10 strategies over the last 8 years that I've seen done firsthand and experienced many of them myself, okay, that leads to better customer service, raving fans, way more referrals, and killer testimonials. So if you'll adopt some to all of those strategies, you're going to see your business grow. All right, so with that, it's going to wrap up our webinar. I'll make sure a copy of it gets loaded up to our coaching site within the next, probably be after the conference coming up. But did want to let you know that it will be there, okay, as well as the PowerPoint. So with that, it's going to wrap up our webinar. Let's go sell some houses. We'll talk to you real soon. See you.